Hi everyone, Jenna Kramer here, and I wanted to start off this school year by reviewing some of the things we did last school year with annotating. I put together this presentation just as a refresher and for anyone who wasn't able to attend the professional development that we did last fall. So annotating is a big fancy word for taking notes in the margin, recording your thinking, being an active reader, and paying attention to what your inner voice or what your metacognition is doing as you're reading. So something to keep in mind is to reflect on what is your process for reading a complex text, because no doubt that's going to impact the way that you teach students how to read a difficult text. The way that you mark up the text, the types of annotations that you make, those are all things that you're going to want to model for your students. And you've developed a system that works well for you, and now we want to help students to emulate those same types of skills in your specific content area that you teach. So again, annotating is both a reading strategy and a note-taking strategy. And the whole point of it is to help students to actively read and think about the topics that they're reading about. And simply put, it's really just taking notes in the margins and recording some of the thinking and writing it down. So 3 reasons why we should annotate and why we should encourage our students to annotate is it really helps with concentration. It's also really helpful in remembering or finding important information. So long term, if you ask students to go back to a text to find information, that will help students to do that more quickly. And also the way that we have it structured, it really helps students to monitor their own learning. So if they are not focused, if they're off task thinking about other things, the way that we have it structured helps them to refocus and go back and reread until they have at least a general understanding of whatever they're reading. So I broke annotating into 3 steps because 3 sounded good to me. I know some grade level teams have broken it up to 4 or 5 steps. It doesn't matter to me as long as in some way, shape, or form all of these steps are incorporated into the annotating process, because this is research-based best practice. So step 1 is the step that students always forget, and even as adults we often forget to look at the text features. What is the title? What are the headings? Things that stand out, the bolded words, the italicized words, taking a moment to look at the visuals and captions. All of those things are included by the author for a reason, to help with comprehension, to highlight something important. The other thing we want is for students to look at the text structure or how it's organized. It might be compare and contrast. It might be chronologically organized. It might be topical. All of those things are going to help students to have a game plan for how they're going to tackle this reading. And it's also going to help them with the next step, which is chunking the text into smaller sections. So depending on how it's structured, they might chunk it by heading or topic, or minimally they should chunk it into 2 smaller chunks per page. So again, this is something that is helpful for differentiation. If a student is reading about something that they have no background knowledge on, they're going to want to chunk it into smaller sections, and that's okay. Maybe the student has a lot of background knowledge, or you just covered this topic and it's at the end of the unit and students have a plethora of information on whatever you're reading about. So maybe the chunks are larger. I really encourage students to actually physically draw a line as a reminder for that stopping point, because otherwise we kind of get wrapped up in what we're reading and we forget to stop, think, and jot down that annotation. So step 3 is doing just that, where you read one chunk at a time, and once you reach that stopping point, you have to write down something that you're thinking about. And there are really 4 different categories of annotations that I came up with, and it's summary, question, connection, or a definition of an unfamiliar word. There might be other thoughts that students want to write down, but typically they do fit into one of these categories. Going back to this visual, I've seen this around in people's classrooms as a way to remind students as an anchor chart, like these are the 4 steps of annotating. So again, if you want it to be 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, I've seen some people add on that 5th step of purposeful highlighting at the end. That's cool. It's just we want to make sure that we have all of these components in our annotating procedure. So here's an example of some annotations that I did on a random article. And you'll see that I have some notes written down in the margins. I have a star, I have a question mark, I boxed an unfamiliar word, I have some highlighting going on. So this is just something to show you an example. And it is really, really important that with our students, we are showing them, modeling for them what our expectations are for annotating, because this is the 2nd year that we're doing this school-wide, and so they're going to say that they've heard this information before, but we want to help them grow, and the only way to do that is to show them specific examples of how they can get better at writing annotations and reading. Here's an example of some online electronic annotations, and this is using a program called Scribble. So again, I just wanted to show you that we can use the Chromebooks to do online annotating. So if that's something that you want to explore, myself or Tyler Potter we're more than welcome and willing to show your team or you as an individual what is the best technology tool to use, because it'll depend on the text, if it's a PDF, if it's a website, etc. So at this point, if we were all in a group setting, I would ask you to talk to people around you and ask a question or recap some of the material that we've covered. But since this is online, this is where I'm going to leave you. And I want to say thank you for watching the video, getting the refresher, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much.